Hello, 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 and welcome to this beautiful show that doesn't even have a name yet. But this is my beautiful friend, my mentor, a guide, and this incredible, amazing woman on this planet. Her name is Zapheria Bell, and I am honored and honored to introduce her to you, to the world, and to this space. And I'm so grateful that you have said yes to coming on to this show with me for the first interview. Today we are going to be talking about the womb space. Zapheria is truly one of the most gifted, incredible women on this planet, opening up people's womb spaces. Now, for those of you who are here watching and have no idea what in heaven's name we're talking about, what the womb space is, why it's important, why in heaven's name I'm talking about this with Zapheria, you will learn all about it. But for now, you just get to know this woman is truly a powerhouse when it comes to energetic clearing, everything to do with wombs, feminine energy, connecting our divine and our masculine. All of these wonderful things she embodies, she preaches, and honest to God, if you get into her energy space just from this interview, you'll be activated and feel freaking amazing just from her glowing. Look at her smiling face.
An amazing introduction.
And she's been diving into this work. How long have you been into this, Z? Like for a long time.
Like 7 years.
So
yeah, it's specifically in womb work, 7 years.
Amazing. So yeah, I would love to start actually with the basics. Like what in heaven's name? Like let's just talk about that. Like what is, for me, I remember so Zapheria and I met a couple of years ago, but I actually did a womb activation day. Is that what you would call that?
Yeah.
Last year with her. And I remember one of the first things, and I'd been already kind of starting to explore womb things, and this concept had come to me. But I remember even asking you then, like, what in heaven's name, like, where is your womb space? Like, what does that mean? How do I touch it? Right? How do I feel that? What does that mean? Like, even as a woman, because I'm like, if I'm not pregnant, do I have a womb? Right? Like, all of that stuff. So could you please share that with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you brought that in. Like, if I'm not pregnant, do I even have a womb? It's like for most people in a woman's body, it's like, like either our womb is for having a baby, or our womb is for many women, what feels like the inconvenience of bleeding each month if we're not having a baby. And that's usually the extent of it. And actually, if you ever turned around and said that also maybe you could consider that a male body had a womb space or an energetic womb, people would think you were insane, because obviously they don't have that anatomically. So there's different levels. There's like anatomic level of, yes, we have a womb. It's a part of our anatomy. It's an organ. It has a function that it does on the physical realm. That's one aspect. But if you start to look at the fact that actually we are not only a physical being, we're not just this bag of flesh, we actually do have an energetic aspect. And I know people can also be like, well, I don't understand, like, how do we even have an energy body? But if you start to look at like at quantum level, if you were to look at quantum physics, actually it has been scientifically proven that we are energetic beings. So I won't kind of, go into the quantum physics now, but, if someone's like, I don't understand, it's like, well, you can go and have a little bit of a search into that direction to understand a little more that our body, every single cell, has an energetic aspect to it as well, and a quantum part to it. So when we look at that, then you see, okay, so we can start to work with the energetic field. Then our womb has the physical part of the womb, but it also has an energetic part of our womb. And that's the part that I mostly work with. I still obviously work with the physical, but I'm mostly working with the energetic, which is then when you look at that, you can start to kind of bend the mind a little and realize that a male body could also have that energetic aspect that they can awaken in themselves as well, that they can activate in themselves as well. But I guess, if you're really just focusing on the absolute basics, it's that our physical body has the energetic around it. And that's the piece that we want to activate and bring to life. And that's the aspect that I feel excited about sharing with the world, actually, is the power of what that can bring into our lives when we even understand that it's there, let alone start to work with it.
I have so many questions already from that. Firstly, so like and this is what I asked you. I remember it feels like forever ago, but like, so where is that space? Like, if we want to connect with it, where is that space in both man and female body? I'm curious.
Yeah. So it's still located where the physical womb would be. So about three, if you were to place your fingers just below your belly button, about 3 fingers below the belly button, that's where the womb and the energetic womb are residing. So both in the same place, which means really to be able to connect to it, all you need to do is just place your hands, like just, 3 fingers below your belly button and just place your hands over. And it's like, that's the space. That's where you're focusing your attention.
Do you feel like, because I've also heard, like, like if we think about it almost like from the center of our head straight drop down, it's like from there and then 3 fingers back, that's kind of where it is? Or do you feel like it holds that whole space up?
To me, it's the whole space. Like when I'm really working with the energetic part of my womb, it feels enormous, actually. So some days I'm like, how is that? Because actually the physical womb is not that big, right? It's kind of like smaller than your fist. To me, when I start to work with it energetically, it feels like it fills the whole lower area of my body. So, and if you're thinking about, actually, if we're working with energy can expand. I can play with that and expand it bigger, but let's just kind of keep it to where it is for most people, is definitely within the body.
Okay. And the same thing for men too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you mentioned that, like, part of you, like the part that wants to share the power of this. So where do you feel like, what is the power of connecting in? Why do we want to connect into our womb space? Why, like, what's this conversation? And I say it because, like, I know, especially as this feminine is rising in the world right now, there is so much of this in the spiritual world coming up about our womb space and how women should connect and all this stuff. But it's like, why?
My God, it's like there's so many answers I could give you on the why. It's like, how do I even keep it to something? Okay, where's the place to start with this? Well, if you're going to look at the fact that, like, the feminine is rising on the planet at the moment, there are different aspects of that. And for us to truly be able to tune into what is our own feminine, like there's the feminine, the masculine, there's men and women's bodies, but there's the energy aspect of feminine and masculine that we can all access. It's everywhere you look, every place you go to. Like, I'm currently living in Bali, and like, it's such a feminine energy in Bali. But if you look at the room that I'm currently sitting in, in a co-share working space, this room is very masculine, right? They're just different energies. So if we want to be able to start to work with that feminine energy aspect, then we need to be able to connect into our womb. That is the hub of the feminine. That's her place of creation. That's how she's even, able to tap into her power and able to tap into her ability to create in the world. And when I speak about that, really want women who don't have a physical womb to not be like, oh, well, I don't have one of those. It's like, well, yeah, but you still have the energetic womb no matter what. So you can still work with that and be able to tap into that energy to bring in your own feminine essence, your own feminine energy, depending on how you would like to work with that in the world. So there's so many different levels. To me, the start is be connected to your feminine. For me, I was working in corporate. I was in corporate for like 15 years. I was a badass businesswoman. You wouldn't want to, cross me. I was really intense, and I was great for my clients because I always got what they wanted, but I was full on intense in my masculine, which is fine. However, my body wasn't able to cope with it, and I nearly gave myself a heart attack by pushing in that energy because I didn't understand that there were different energies that I could work with. And as soon as I started to work with the womb, my feminine energy started to awaken, and I realized, oh, I can still be just as productive in my work, but sit more back into my feminine instead of being like in your face masculine. And actually what I noticed is, like, the world changed around me. All the people I worked with changed around me. Suddenly I was getting more business coming towards me the more I dropped into that energy. So for me, that was like my starting place of me going, oh, this is interesting.
You bring up a topic that is so close to my heart when you talk about that. And one of the things I notice, especially in the places that I play, are so many of these incredible female leaders, and I did a Facebook Live about it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, there are so many incredible female leaders coming into the world, and even CEOs of top huge corporations now are females, and it's amazing to see them starting to pop up. But what I said is, like, the thing that breaks my heart as I watch it is they're not feminine.
No.
I have not seen a CEO level woman, and I say this with all the love in my heart, I have not seen it that they are actually in their feminine. They're a masculine woman. And I'm like, man, wouldn't I just, man, I say it right here, right there, right that was it. Right? Wouldn't I just love to break that paradigm? Like, what does it look like to be a leader as a woman, to rock this fucking world as a woman, to make shit tons of money as a woman, to spread our message, to be in our power, and be a woman, right? To be in our feminine floor. So my question for you is, like, if we come back to that, like, from where you were in this corporate, like, what are, like, even like 3 pieces that would, like, we could bring to this right now, that it's like, what are 3 tips or something that you did in that space that's like, okay, well, how can I drop more into my feminine to be, like you just said, more productive, more powerful, more money? And not, because I think it's like this shift in the paradigm that it's like women weren't taught that, because from a leadership perspective, we've all learned from men, right?
Yeah.
And so then we think in order to fit in and make it in the world, we have to be like a man, but that's not true. And so it's like saying, like, we break that paradigm, but then how do we actually break that paradigm down?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, right? Is if we did come from the place where it was like, we need to prove women can do just as much as men can. And that's fine. Like, that actually had to happen for us to be able to shift the dynamics, the gender dynamics. But we didn't realize that we could drop that. Like, now we are in the workplace, we do get amazing jobs, like, we can run countries, like that, we're already there. And it's like, yes, so to realize we don't have to be a masculine or a man in a female's body, we can bring the absolute divine presence of the feminine and run a country and run big businesses, right? And so for me, actually, I'll tell you, it's so interesting that I'm sitting in this room. So I'll tell you a really beautiful story that will kind of share it really well. So I was working on a really, really big sporting event in the Middle East, and had a really high role. So I was like looking after medal ceremonies across the entire sport. So it was really stressful. And when you're doing that, you're like, I've got to work to the second. We've got broadcast, and I'm trying to bring out athletes, and it's like, it's intense energy. And I actually was in an office very much like this. So as I came into this office this morning, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm back at that job again. Like, okay, well, this is happening for a reason, right? And so I was in like a very stark office, very cold, like nothing nice or soft in there at all. And what I started to do was just like close my eyes and put my hands over my womb and just bring my attention and my breath down to my womb, and literally just sit there for, like, sometimes it would even only be 30 seconds. Like, my day was so crazy, and I just breathe into my womb. And as I was breathing into my womb, I would just imagine that I could expand that energy as big as myself. And then I would imagine I could expand that energy as big as the office that I was sitting in. And it was just like, okay, just imagine that I could fill this whole office space with like the softness of the feminine. Yet realizing that as much as she's soft, she's fierce. so it's like holding that space. And what I noticed was everything changed. The people that would walk into that office changed as they walked in, from the day before when I wasn't doing it to the day that I was doing it. And suddenly everything that I was asking for was done quickly. Like, working in the Middle East, I don't know anyone who's done it. It's not easy. Things go at a different pace to what I was used to. Suddenly people are like falling over themselves to bring me all the things that I needed on time or early. People are coming in, is there anything we can do for you? Like, what do you need? And suddenly, like, what I was running was like running like clockwork. And that was the only thing I was doing different. So then I would come in and do that every day. like just that smaller piece. I also noticed the same thing then when I was working with, I'm trying to work with athletes and get everybody out on the field in intense pace. In the past, I would do it very much like, come on, get out here, and be really like intense with them. And I still brought the fierceness. If you watch, like the fierce mother, if you watch a mother who's like going to watch out for her children's safety, there's fierceness, but it's the feminine. So I was bringing like a fierceness, but not the penetrative masculine. And suddenly all of my ceremonies, like all the athletes are lined up perfectly on time. Nobody's talking to anybody. Everybody's dressed perfectly. Everybody's out there on time. Broadcasters on time. Like they were the best jobs that I'd ever done. And it was simply me shifting my own energy into being more in the feminine instead of being more in the masculine.
So for you to shift your energy, meaning like you literally were just like, I'm going to breathe into my womb space. So I want to be clear, like breathing into womb space, it's like literally as I'll explain the way I think of it. Like literally we breathe in and like we're breathing our breath down into that space. And to me, it's like a cycle. It's like and it's like, for me, I come back to breath. I work with so many people. I've realized in my life now that I work with so many people. It's like this underlying anxiety that lives, and especially when you're living in your masculine, right? When we're a woman living in our masculine, it's like there's always going to be an imbalance because we're not actually honoring ourselves, right? And so coming back to that breath and reconnecting into who we truly are, right? It like eliminates that anxiety. And so I'm guessing that that piece, right? Like for me, it does anyway. That piece, when we eliminate that, when we've reconnected into that feminine, into ourselves, that when we don't carry that anxiety, when we don't carry that nervous energy, that's probably part of also that reason that it's like, well, people are like, I have nothing to worry about. You've got this. And it's like, and in that almost, gosh, this is a kind of an interesting like little thought process here, right? But like, even in that, that you've got this because you're so solid in who you, like in yourself, in your feminine, your masculine then shows up and it's like, yeah, of course I got this. I got you and I'm holding you. And I think that's like, it's a part of the journey. And I don't necessarily think the masculine obviously is necessarily like the womb space, but part of this work is that it's like, we learn this feminine part of ourselves, but it's like, I talk to my clients lately. It's like the feminine is meant to be this wild, crazy, chaotic, you know, like the flowing water, right? And if we don't have the container to hold the water, then that is also still chaotic. Like, right? So even in what you're saying, it was like, I have the fierceness and I have this masculine that's like here and holding this energy that is the feminine. And I think so often people are like almost afraid to get into their feminine because the feminine can be a little bit crazy.
Totally. Like 100%. And so like, you know, a lot of the women that I'm working with the womb, like, you know, and in my retreat spaces, and I'm pretty sure the day you came to, we did it as well. I work with the masculine as well. So it's like, yes, I'm encouraging, you know, all of us to start to really connect into our feminine, but very often, and not always, but very often for women, especially being in intense, you know, roles where we're trying to do a lot in the world, and the masculine comes through, that penetrative drive energy to run a business or run a family comes out in more an immature energy because it's just not our natural way, right? So it comes out in a more immature energy, and that does bring anxiety actually, because it's very difficult to trust that energy. Whereas when we can allow our masculine, if we're in a feminine body, our masculine to stand behind us and hold us and just hold the feminine, that's where you get the really intense power that comes, because it's like it's almost like if you walked into a room and you saw like a really feminine woman but a really strong man behind her holding her, you're not going to mess with her. Like, let's just let her do her thing, right? But if she had like an 8-year-old boy like running around in front of her crazy, you'd kind of be like, well, okay, what's happening here? Well, that's what most of us have been doing. And so not intentionally. And so that's why I'm excited by this work of like guiding women to drop into, and men to drop into our womb, but to bring our masculine behind us and to really hold us.
And you do it well. So I just did Well Spiral in Bali. Zapheria was there as well. And I was just thinking of a few of the rituals we did. One of them in particular. It was really, I mean, the whole week for me was really big around that, but like, it literally is the feeling now, like I've like in the most incredible way, I have myself, like, and when you come from that, like that is true sovereignty, right? And if I could bring that to every single person in the planet, I mean, that is powerful. Like, yes, it's important to have this womb, but like when we bring it together, that true sovereignty is like, I don't need anybody else.
Yeah.
in the world. I need it as a human because I am part of a tribe that is like human being wants human, right?
Yeah.
But me and my own self-sovereignty soul, it's like, yeah, I got my masculine that's got my back. I got my feminine that's going to bring everything together in this creation space. And it's like they work together. And when you can really tap into both, it's like freaking magic because you can
Yeah.
call in and it's like, instead of saying, okay, well, I'm in this task and I'm just going to be crazy. It's like, I'm in a masculine task, bring my masculine with me and like, I'm in this feminine task, like let the flow happen. Right. You know, and it's such a beautiful way to have such a huge understanding and concept of it. And so, and I'll say it here now, like Zapheria has these amazing, amazing, amazing retreats, which I'll give her a chance to talk about at the end, but highly, and womb spiral and all these other things which she'll talk about, but I highly recommend, like if this already sounds interesting to anyone listening, just reach out to Zapheria. She'll give you her details and tell them anyway, tell them now while we're here. How would they reach out to you?
So you can look me up on Facebook if you're a Facebooker, which is Zapheria Bell, ZAPHERIA BELL. So you can find either my personal or my public page on there, or my website is just my name, zapheriabell.com.au. But usually I'm more on Facebook than I am on anything else. And, you know, I'm actually sharing, which depending where this goes and when it goes out, but I've got a 2-hour event that I'm doing in a week. That's just like it's just like a taster for people to come in and just like really get a vibe, and they can grill me with questions. And
Yeah, perfect.
So I'll send you that link later.
Cool. Okay, so coming back to the womb then, I'm looking at some questions. Okay, I have a couple questions, and I'm going to throw them at you because I feel like these are the few that I want to talk about. How do we open up to connecting to womb space? Do you feel like it's only through breath, or are there other ways that we can open up to connecting to womb space?
I feel like breath is the place to start. It's like that's how you even start to realize that is there. Like it literally is as simple as place, like I just was doing before, placing your hands over and breathing. And when I say breathe into your womb, it's like actually when you start to play with your breath, you realize that it's also energy. So you can send it anywhere in your body. Like if I told you to breathe into your pinky finger, you actually can send your breath into your pinky finger. So it's literally just that, and like breathe. And the reason I say to place your hands there is it helps us to be able to guide. And if you're like, that's just even weird, then you can literally just visualize as you breathe in, just visualize anything, breath, color, energy. I used to have a client who used to like to see it as water. For him, it was a waterfall. I'm like, okay, cool. If that's what works for you, that's what works. And is really seeing or feeling that come to underneath your hands. And that to me is like the place to start. And you just actually, it's amazing. People go, oh, is that all? But it starts to center you. I mean, you and I did it before we got on this call, right? Like you guided us through, okay, so do some breath and then drop into your womb, and you feel the whole body starts to come into center and everything else drops away. And to me, it can literally be just start with that every day, because you're starting to train your body. Oh, right, there's something here that I can work with. And for some people, that's enough to what I call activate the womb, which is like to bring the energetic of the womb alive. And that's the starter. And there are just like so many other tools and things that I could teach, but I feel like for people to just start there is big.
Okay, so the next question I have, so once we've connected in, right, we're feeling our womb, we're like, yes, the energetic space is there, I'm feeling it. And so one of the things you talk about is being guided by our womb, right? Like in helping us make decisions through the womb. So I'm inviting you to talk about that, but also like the question that I have, and it's like a true, like, I'm curious to hear your response to this is, because we also talk about like being heart-led and soul-led, right? So we can be led from our womb, led from our heart, led from our soul, led. What's the difference, and how do we know, and why would we use any of these differently? Do we use them you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I feel like it can get super confusing for people as well. So to me, like being led by our womb is the feminine intuition. So when people speak about intuition, sometimes to them it's coming more through like a third eye intuition. It's more like a masculine knowing. Like, and people will hear it in different ways. Some people literally like hear it as guidance or hear it as a message, or it just kind of drops in for them. And the way I say that is, it's like, you know, it's almost like there is a voice talking to you that said, you need to go this way. Like, go to this restaurant, you should walk that way. Like, everybody's experienced it at some point where you're in that flow, and just like this inner thing tells you to go somewhere, and so you do it. For me, with the womb, it's deeper. For me, it's like such a difficult thing to explain a feeling. but it comes deeper. It's actually within my body. Instead of when I hear an intuition, it can kind of feel like it's quite up around my head or mind, and or third eye based is more of the kind of masculine intuition coming in. For me, the feminine almost is like my body will go somewhere. For example, like when I was at the Roger Hamilton event and they announced something, and in my mind was like, I don't want to do that thing. And next, like literally my body was standing up and I was walking there. I'm like, oh, this is not my head. This is my womb is saying you need to go do this thing. So I'm just going to trust. And it takes some time. Like, it sounds really weird, but it takes some time. It's almost like, I hear some women explain it as like a gut knowing. To me, it can be really similar as that. There's just this piece inside you that's like, I need to go this way. My body needs to move there right now, or do this. People who are a mother, I feel, would really understand this piece, because you have it with your children. It's like, you know, I've seen women be sitting there talking to me, and suddenly they're up and walking over towards their child, even though they haven't seen their child, but they know that they're about to walk into danger. It's that depth of like, oh, I need to go here. Something's happening. So for me, that's the difference between the womb and the third eye intuition, or knowing. So then, yeah, when we come to heart, so interesting, right? Because most people have what's called a heart wall. So most people actually have like an energetic barrier around their heart, which is another thing that I work with a lot of people, because like, it's actually Heart Math Institute is the ones who discovered this. So like, it's literally got a science behind it that can be looked into. But what I've discovered through working with a lot of clients is this energetic wall that we have around our heart is very real. It's actually a piece that through clearing that we can help ourselves take down. So for a lot of people, if you say to be guided by their heart, they actually just can't feel it, because it's got so much protection and barrier around it. So I feel like, you know, yes, okay, if someone's done the work and they can bring that down, to me, it's like an expansion. It's an expansion in the chest, and it will often bring tears with it. It's that like, oh, I need to go, and oh, that's where I'm supposed to go. Like, it's just this upwelling of an emotion of where we should go or what we should be doing. That's when you see people doing like huge things out in the world, like making massive movements in the world. They're just being like I have to do this, right? And especially movements around, you know, caring for our world or caring for our children. They're the people that I feel are really following their heart more than anything else. And what was the other one you asked about? Soul. Yeah. So I find this really interesting, because soul is becoming a buzzword. So, but for good reason. Like, actually, there are so many people on the planet right now really awakening to their soul's calling, and really realizing that they are a soul to start with, and that they can bring that soul into shine through this being, and to do good in the world, to follow their soul's calling. But then there's also just people kind of using the word as like a buzzword. And so I feel like, to know the difference. So the soul actually lives up above the head. I see it in like a golden sphere up above the head, and it comes in through the crown. And most of us, not due to our own fault, we're not connected. Most of us are actually just not connected to our soul. We've had different reasons why it has fragmented off. It didn't feel safe. It was never really welcome here to start with, so it hasn't fully landed in our body. The way I feel that you can tell somebody who is being guided by their soul is quite often it makes no sense to the personality, makes no sense to the mind. the personality and the mind will probably fight the whole way. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what's going on, for me for the last couple of years. I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? I'm like, okay. And it's the big pieces. I don't feel like the soul is really guiding us in the, hey, like buy this computer or go walk this way down the street. But the soul is really guiding us on the big pieces that we're like, oh my God, is that really what I'm here to do?
Mm-hmm. And really where we're supposed to go. Like, coming to Wealth Spiral in Bali for me, I mean, I had seen you weeks before, 4 weeks before that. And I was like, I'm not coming. I have no desire. I'm done. I'm cooked. I've had so much to do, like, so much growth work. And I even said to Dane that I was like, I'm done. Like, it makes all the sense in the world logically to go, but like, I don't want to go. Like, I'm done. And 3 weeks later, I think it kept dropping in. You have to be there. You have to be there. You have to be there. And I was like, I don't want to go. There was not one part of me, right? There was not one, like the physical aspect, the money, the being away from my family, the travel, like not one part of it did I want to do. But I was like, my soul was like, you have to be there. And every time I wanted to ignore it, it was like, if I don't go, my soul's going to be really fucking pissed at me. So you overcome all of the physical stuff and you listen. And it's something, I think for me, it's a big trust thing to follow soul. Like when you're really following soul, because it often does ask you to do things that it's like your physical human self is like, no way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most of the time,
I love that. I love that.
Body, mind.
I love that distinction. So do you think that there is like, for lack of a better word, like a better leading, right? Like there's all these ways that we can be led, right? From our soul, from our heart, from our womb, from our third eye, from our human self, right? Ego. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might want to listen to that one, but we do. Many people are led by ego, right?
Yeah.
So is there like a better, or is it like a special time that we want to like drop into womb versus other things? Because I don't, and I'm asking because I'm thinking about it actually consciously now. It's like, I don't think that I necessarily go consciously like, no, that's not true. I do. Sometimes I'll be like, what does my womb want today? That's not true. I will often, So like, where is that? Like, is there a better time or place that we want to ask any one of these aspects of self to lead us or guide us? Or is there a better purpose? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I feel like it depends where you're at on your journey and where you're headed in your life. Like for some people, even the thought of becoming, soul connected or soul aligned just isn't really of interest to them, and that's totally fine as well. So then in that case, I would say then it's like following your womb and your heart. Those two to me are really powerful. If you really actually want to tap into what your soul's calling is and you're here to make a big difference in the world, or you're here to have a really powerful path, then it's it's connecting into the soul. But also it's that piece where I was saying, like, the soul to me is the big piece. The soul is guiding you pretty much to the thing that you would live or die for. That's basically the crux of it. It's like your soul is guiding you into the piece where you're like, would you die for this thing? I'm like, well, yes. Like, my calling at the moment, I would die for it. Like, this is what I'm here for, and it's the only reason for me to be living. That's my soul connection. Yet my womb is really guiding me daily on everything that I'm doing, on the directions that, like, I'm looking for a house at the moment. I'm really tuning into like, how does my womb feel about this? I'm not really asking my soul how that feels about that house, but I'm definitely checking with my womb and my heart.
Right. Got it. And so by doing that, like, and I think about it, it's really funny when I was in Bali, I'm just thinking about this moment. And we went to the markets with a friend, Jamie, after the Wealth Spiral, and I was walking around the markets and I had my hands on my womb, and she's like, "Oh, is your womb guiding you to what you want, Carrie?" I was like, "Apparently it is." Like, I hadn't even thought about it, but like, it's so true, right? Like, like it literally can guide us to the places. I mean, especially in places like that, I could have shopped at 100 different shops, and like, which one did I want to go to? Which one's going to be the place for me? And we can use that for all the time throughout all the day, throughout all of our, like, what food do I want? And just tap in, like, and I even think about it, for me, I'll use it with exercise as well, a lot, actually, because I think from day to day, my exercise, as much as like on a physical level, my intention is to move, right, on the physical
Mm-hmm.
level. And some days it's like I ask my womb, I'm like, especially like when I'm getting my period, like I don't do you really want
Mm-hmm.
to right now? What's the movement that would feel the best for you right now? Versus like, do I need to go to the gym and smash something out hard when I'm bleeding? Not really. But do I have to give up
Mm-hmm.
on my goals because I'm not? No. Can I go for a gentle walk today, womb? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and I think that is like a good distinction for me, like on a day-to-day basis. Like I would ask, like, what does my feminine aspect, what does my womb desire today? And especially
Mm-hmm.
because we are as women on the physical level, we do cycle, right? And the
Fantastic.
womb does
Yeah.
have a huge part of that. And so in those pieces of the cycle, which is a whole nother conversation we could have another day, um there's going to be times in the month that we want to have more active things, more fiery foods, more whatever. And then there's going to be times in the month that it's like, I just want to retreat and be quiet and, and
Yeah.
I don't want to go
And
out.
actually,
Yeah.
like to honor that quiet time, like it's, as women we are being conditioned to ignore the fact that we're bleeding and just keep surging through. But even like no matter what we're doing in life, even if we are like running a country or a CEO of a top business, or we're home building a family and bringing through the next generation, it doesn't matter what it is that we're doing, or all of those things at the same time, to listen to that time when the womb does want to go in actually brings like a really deep medicine to all of those things, because that's when we're our most intuitive. That's actually when we're able to manifest the most. So even if we just have like a little bit of quiet time, a little bit of like alone, being in the dark, journaling, whatever it is for you, like to kind of go in, then allows us to come back out and be in the world and create more. So, for me, like just that one piece of the physical, I would love to see women just be able to drop into, even if it's a moment of honoring that is that's our winter, that's our hibernation time.
I also find, and then I have actually, it leads me to the next question that I really wanted to ask, and then we'll wrap up there. But for me, one of the things that I have found in my bleeding, in my cycle, the more that I connect in, the less symptoms, the less cramps, the less, like, because you can
Yeah.
see, you can hold it. It's like, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
feel you, I honor you. And all of a sudden it's like, and you love it. And instead of rejecting the fact that the women, and this is what we do every month. Hello, people. We do this every
Yeah.
month, women.
That's why she cramps. Mm-hmm.
And if we stop rejecting it and we honor and we love ourselves for being women, for being this beautiful, and this leads perfectly into it. Like, we are the point of creation, right? And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I love about learning from you, and like what I've really embodied in the womb space is we are the point of creation. And so when we look at that, like, the world could not exist without us. The world could not exist without our womb space. That is how fucking important it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it brings me to this next point, which is like, I talk about manifesting. We talk about money. Like, this is my work, right?
Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
do we use this womb space in the world to actually, on a physical level, bring in our manifestations, to bring in our creations, to bring in more wealth, more money, more all the things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah, I mean, I use my womb to bring in everything. So it's like, my womb brings in all of my clients. It's like currently the clients that come to me are quite often are like, I was dreaming about you and I don't know why. I'm like, that's my womb out there magnetizing, and she's calling in, and she's calling in, money or clients or homes that I want. Like, she's really working on that all of the time. And it's like, it is that exact point. That is creation. Nothing else in the world is creation. The womb is creation. And like, the sooner we start to realize that, the sooner we can tap into that power and start to manifest. So for me, there's like there's different levels depending on where people are at. For if you're really just starting to begin, like even the breathing into the womb and doing that at your time of deciding to write, like, what is it? What are you manifesting? What are you bringing in? What are you calling in more of? And really breathing into the womb before you journal. For me, that would be like, placing some music on that really just kind of takes me internal first, then dropping in and breathing into my womb. And then as my mind gets out of the way, then journaling from that place. So it's not like my mind wants me to have, this amazing dress. It's like, no, actually, I'm really calling in something big. That would be like kind of the basics of where I would start. And then where I'm at now, it's really actually guiding women through what's called the womb gates, but we journey to the cosmic womb, which is kind of, now I'm starting to get a little woo woo, but you know, I was speaking before about like quantum. So you can start to look at it that way. It's like the void space, it's the quantum space. It's to tap into that, which is actually the place of pure potentiality, which means like, you know, every single potentiality is there. We just need to be able to collapse that into real time and bring that down into our womb to be able to create. And we start to realize that just like the womb needs time, she has, you know, 9 months to create this baby before she births it. It's starting to realize, oh, so I call that in and I place it in my womb and I be with that and I keep on feeding it. It's like I'm not forgetting that I'm creating this thing. I'm constantly feeding it. So for me, it might be that I have an altar, and that altar is where my intention is going all the time. Might be just dropping into my womb and being like, okay, I'm feeding this baby that I'm growing, and realizing that then we birth it into the world. And of course, with it being whatever, you know, a project or a business or whatever it might be, it might not take 9 months, might be quicker, might be longer, but just understanding the same process. That to me is
Mm,
huge and has made all the difference.
mm,
And also just the womb is magnetic. So if we just start to activate the womb and activate the energy of the womb, she is magnetic. And so therefore she's out calling and like calling in everything that we're wanting, or everything that we need to create what we want to create in the world.
mm. That's beautiful. I was even thinking like how it relates to what I was just saying before, even with our cycle, but like the thoughts that we think about it, right? You know, like feeding it. Like to me, the first thing that I thought about when you said feeding it, I was like, how would I feed that? Right. So like I can imagine, right? I've got the exact, I love what you said. Like, you know, we call it in through our intention, through our writing, through exactly what we desire. And then we put it in like we would like the seed into the womb, but like we hold it there, right? Okay, so now I've got my baby. And for anyone who's had a baby, I mean, I can relate to that very much so, right? Okay, I got my baby here. So how do I feed that baby? Well, I would feed that baby because I can imagine, even as a woman, like holding my baby in my belly, literally, and I would feed my baby with thoughts like, you're beautiful, you're loved, you're going to have this amazing life, you're all these things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's another thing that I'm thinking when I hear you say feed it. It's like,
Yeah.
and then literally, like even we talked about before, the physical, right? So we lead with the thing, like, what would I literally physically feed it? How
Mm-hmm.
would I move to make this creation come to life? All that stuff all then comes into bringing this creation to life,
Yeah.
ingesting.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like if we start to look at everything like that, like for me, you know, I'm landing a temple at the moment, and it's like, okay, so I know it's so exciting, but and so I am, oh, so who would I want? Same as like who would I want on my birthing team? Who do I want there for this birth? And then it will grow bigger. So after that, like after the birth, then who do I want to start to be around my child to be like a really beautiful influence on this baby? And then even bigger than that, okay, so as my baby grows, like how do I want to support it have an impact in the world? So it's
Mm,
like looking at it on this level of creation starts to really just shift, instead of like, oh, like I want to bring this person into my world because like they do the best websites. It's like, well, actually, is this person the right one on my team to start to bring this baby to the world?
and so
That shift in business is
I love,
huge.
I love what you said because it's so true. Like like people birth books, people birth programs, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
it literally is in their languaging. I'm birthing my baby. It's not a physical baby, but it is. It's a book.
But it's a baby. Yeah.
Project, it's a program, it's a, you know, and I love how you say that. Like, who would I have on my support team for a birth, right? And like, how
Yeah.
do we nurture that? And it's that same aspect in all of the things that we do in order to manifest through our womb space. I love that. And it's the same
Yeah.
concept. So like, whether you're birthing a baby or whether you're birthing a project, it's that same concept. And then we can still tap into that feeling of the womb. And is
Yeah.
it the same? So like the same for men? Do they same tap in that same?
Same. Yeah, completely the same for men, is to understand like they tap into this creation as well. And like you can even bring it back to like, you know, the moment of conception. If it was, you know, a book or a project or a business or whatever, we don't then blast out and tell everybody in the world about it, because some, you know, things are probably going to fall down or someone will steal it, like whatever it might be. We tell a couple of people really close to us. It's the same when you first conceive. Like you don't go, oh, I'm 2 weeks pregnant, I'm now going to blast it onto Facebook and tell everybody. It's like, well, okay, that's probably not great. I'm going to tell like my partner, and then I might tell someone else, but maybe not. And then starting to build from there. So yeah, absolutely. Like men and women looking at how they create in that way, in the same way of realizing that it's an energy. So it is a baby. Whatever we're creating, it is a baby because it's being birthed through your own energy. You created it.
I love it. Thank you. This
Pleasure.
is so amazing. Thank you. And on that, speaking of birthing projects,
Yes.
whilst it's at the temple, well, she is birthing, so watch the space for Zapheria, because
Yeah.
it'll be amazing
Coming.
whenever that comes.
Yeah.
But already birthed into the world are your womb spiral, your womb activation. Please share what that's about and how people can get into that with you.
Yeah. So like the womb activation is a 2-hour call, and that's usually like my total taster, just for someone to be like, hey, like who even is this woman? Like depending on when this kind of goes out, that one might have already been done, but I do try and do those like every couple of months. Otherwise, womb spiral is like just the most powerful, potent, epic. I just am loving. I mean, you've witnessed the transformation some of the women have had after coming to either one of my retreats. I know, I know. And it's like it can be done in retreats, or it can actually be done in a 3-month online journey. So the next online journey starts in November of this year. And the next one after that will probably be like January, February next year. I'm currently got like 10 women I'm apprenticing to start being practitioners of that as well. And as of next year, looking to take on about 20 women to apprentice to that. So it's growing really rapidly. And the reason it's growing is because of actually the impact that it's having. And it's like women come because perhaps they want to work on like, trauma or a lineage wound or just, emotional baggage they know they're holding on to. But what they end up with is stepping out of there with such a belief in themselves. And I see them surging out in the world and just like, I actually see them become a completely different person.
Totally. I have witnessed. I think for me, one of the things that I love, and like it comes back to what we were already talking about, is this concept of these women doing in like a man in a woman's body, right? And I've witnessed, there's a few that I've seen come through that I've been like, holy moly. When I met them before, they were like this masculine, I'm going to be I'm like over powerful, over like brute, like, and I was like, just like having to prove their like, I am self. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end of it, I was like, I mean, literally from spiral to Bali spiral, right? Like a month difference.
Yeah.
It's that powerful that, and then all of a sudden there's this like softness and this beauty, but not any less powerful, actually more powerful, I would say.
Exactly.
More powerful. Yeah. And so I love that for any women that are in here watching this, that, that resonate with that, you're a leader in this world and you're struggling to be out of your masculine to be more dropped into the feminine. I'd say this is an amazing, amazing journey for you. And like I said, I haven't done it yet. I am coming. Zapheria knows I will be there.
Yes, year. I
do. There's just been other spirals, 2 other spirals to go through first.
I know. I get it. So, but I'm coming back to America in August, so
back to back.
You'll be fine.
Anyone who's watching and listening, like this is a direct correlation to the spiral work that I do. So I learned my spiral work with Zapheria. She also teaches. So anyone who's interested in actually, because I know there would be some clients of mine that'll watch this, who have done spiral with me, or if you're interested in spiraling with me, like you can go and learn spiral as well. Zapheria teaches that too. But then she's also made this piece that has taken all of the spiral work we do that goes through all of the chakras to give this a little bit of clarity, and she has aligned it. She hasn't talked about the 7 gates of the womb, but I would love to do that another day actually. And she's aligned it to that, to how do we activate the 7 gates of the womb and spiral at the same time. So it's a really freaking powerful energetic clearing process. And it is like, we're saying womb spiral because it does actually, they do match, but they're not the same by any stretch of the imagination.
Exactly.
Did I describe that well, having not been through it yet?
You did. I'm impressed. You definitely described that well.
You can have a sales role, but
yeah, exactly. I'm like, you're hired.
I'm a supporter, of course. So,
Ah, yes.
cool. So is there anything else that you would like to, any other beautiful pieces of wisdom or anything else that you would like to add
Hmm.
before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I feel like, it's so easy when we hear people speaking about masculine or feminine, and to be more in one or more in the other, to take it as like looking that there's something wrong with us, and it's so not that. It's like just realizing that we can evolve and be the next level of ourselves. So when we're kind of speaking about, being more feminine or being masculine in business, or however it is, it's like there just is another way that you can do it, that brings more of yourself to it, that brings you more into your own power and brings you more into your own greatness. And I mean, who doesn't want that?
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, and going through any of these pieces of the spiral in any way, shape, or form that you can go through it. Um, for me, it's like that is it, right? It's like looking at like how do we claim these aspects of ourselves and remove all of the baggage that has actually kept us from being the truth of who we are, from the stories and the loops that we play over and over and over again in our heads. And it's like this freedom to all of a sudden be fully owned into who you are and be
Mm-hmm.
that expression in the world. And it's a gift that you bring to this world. It's a gift that I get to help bring to this world now, which is very exciting. Um, and it truly is transformational. So to anyone who's called to go and have more conversation with Zapheria about this, please do. As she said earlier, you can contact her on her Facebook, Zapheria Bell, or her website,
Mm-hmm.
zapheriabell.com.au. I will drop these
Mm-hmm.
two places,
Yeah, thank
wherever they
you.
are.
Yeah, places or people who are like Instagram type of people. You can find me at womb_weavers as well. I know some people are like, Facebook, that's so
I don't
old.
understand those Instagram people. I'm trying.
I know. Same.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Zapheria. I love you. I
Thank
love your
you.
work. I think you are amazing. And I love, love, love everything that you do in this world. And please keep powering on with it. We need you to keep
Amazing. Thank you, darling. Such a pleasure to be on and chat with you. I love you.